Welcome back to another Magic Carpet episode. Last week we took you on a detailed tour of our new project boat and pointed out all the work we have ahead. Well, in this episode, we finally get started on some of that work. We remove the deck hardware, the bowsprit, and the cap rails, all in preparation for one big job, the Bulwarks project. Join us in the boat shed as we get started.
Did you notice the two different position lights in the front? That's funny. They're different brands.
Oh, they're different brands and different sizes, yeah.
Whoa! This bowsprit doesn't fit here, and this pulpit doesn't even fit here. And you know what it makes it now?
What?
Around the mast? Granny bars.
Oh, true.
Where are we hanging that? Stern pulpit is already making part of the Christmas decoration. Oh, that's easier though. We can just swing it over somewhere. Nice. But better out of the way.
Yeah, these rafters have become our main storage location, hey?
Yes. This is awesome. So the first week has started very smoothly, and the first thing we've been tackling on the boat is removing hardware. There's some of the hardware we were starting to remove, and that has gone really smoothly because we have an array of tools to help us with that. So I thought I would share what has worked the best and what I find most helpful to get hardware off a boat. So most of the times the hardware is bedded, and that can be either with silicone, so it's not glued at all, that's just sealing it, or it can be 3M 5200, and that really bonds it more than as if it was screwed on. So often it's about prying that off, and very often you want to protect the surfaces that are around it and not damage those. So for those jobs, I really find all the prying bars very useful, and we got a really nice set from small to really big ones, and that was really incredible. As you can see here, it has a big flat surface, so it doesn't damage the rest of the area. If you would use a chisel or a screwdriver, you might damage the surrounding area quite a bit more. But even if I were to want to take this one off, I would try to hammer slightly from multiple directions with this one and then pry it off from, let's say, two areas like that. This one has also been useful because some things on this boat really are stuck in there. The hose pipe cleats and the scuppers and things like that. And I think I've mentioned this previously, but whenever it is about removing bolts and you don't have enough access, or they're just threaded all the way and you cannot get a socket or a wrench on it, then I really love vice grips. You can get a really good grip on those, and then you either turn the entire plier or even if its axis is limited, you pinch it this way and you can turn it that way around. This has been really nice. And of course hammers. Hammers were pretty important in this stage, and I didn't think I would get to use this one here, the 4-pounder, but I actually did, and it was super helpful. And then just an all-arounder like this one for nail removal or even screws with the hammer. That was really cool. And then when you get to materials that have to stay protected and that you cannot ding up, either you use, for example, a piece of hardwood in between. If you're using metal on metal or metal on bronze, you don't want to ding up the bronze hardware. So either you protect it like that, or you use something like a dead blow or a rubber mallet, depending how soft the material is and how hard of a impact you have to make to get that off. Other tools, more also for bolt removal, are punch pins, and these are really cool because sometimes you can hammer a bolt until it is just flush, but it's still not coming out of there. So either I try to get a hold of it from underneath with the vice grip and turn it, or I can get the punch pin into the hole and punch it all the way through until it falls out. Then there is more heavy-duty tools when there is really the last resort. Then you grab the Sawzall. For all of you not knowing what a Sawzall is, it's this one here. So imagine a big jigsaw, and it solves all the problems of things you want to have removed. But I've already used it. There were some bolts in the chain locker and I couldn't possibly turn a wrench or somehow get those nuts off, the bolts off, and I just cut them.
So yeah, that sums up the tools, and basically we've just removed as much hardware as we can the past few days. Everything needs to come off, so we've got a bare bones boat, and that actually takes a considerable amount of time. Now, it goes without saying that when you take things off, you've got to be organized about where you put them if you're planning on reinstalling them, which for most of the stuff we are. So we're starting with sort of the metal components, and then after we've organized and put away all of that, then we'll start taking off some of the teak components. I mean, the skylight will come off, turtle hatch, grab rails, eyebrow, and cap rail, which is the next thing we're going to talk about, because now let's transition into the first big project that we are slowly preparing for. Woohoo! I'm going to say that this is the official start of the Bulwarks project. So one of the fatal flaws of the earlier Cape George boats were the bulwarks. The bulwarks are these little tow rails which rise up above the decks here, and basically in the earlier boats they were constructed, well, first of all, there's a fiberglass hull that runs up to the cap rail here on the outside, and then on the interior they sort of added big chunks of wood to beef them up, make them stronger and thicker, and then the chain plates would actually be attached just to the bulwarks. Now the big problem here is that the cap rail is screwed on top of the bulwarks, the chain plates go through the bulwarks, the stanchions are screwed onto the bulwarks, and so you've got all these potential areas for water ingress, and inevitably water gets in and the bulwarks start to rot, which then spreads to the deck beams inside and to all of the interior joinery and cabinetry and just everything. It goes everywhere. So this is a really big problem on the older boats that was then fixed around the 90s by starting to build the bulwarks with solid fiberglass construction. And that's essentially what we aim to do on this boat. We need to open all this up, cut open the bulwarks, cut open part of the deck, remove the wood, and redo it with solid fiberglass. And this is a huge job. It's probably the single biggest job we're going to do on the Cape George. It's going to take us quite a bit of time. So the first step to removing these bulwarks and making new ones is taking this cap rail off. And this is actually going to be a difficult job because ideally we would like to preserve it and reuse it. It's a really nice thick chunk of teak, but it's all glued down, and taking it off without splintering it apart is going to take some skill. But the very first step in the process is to take the bungs and the screws out, and because there is still some varnish on here, now it is crumbling off in some places, but in some places it is still intact. So I'm actually removing the varnish just over all of the bungs, just so that there's not this layer of bonding between the bungs and the cap rail. And while I'm at it, I might end up just taking all the varnish off anyway. We'll see how much stamina I have, because it's gonna have to come off eventually when we redo the cap rail. Ta-da! And just like that, it's already a day later, but I did finish scraping all the varnish off the cap rail, and I didn't even stop there. I went so far as to scrape all the varnish off the eyebrow, and I started scraping some varnish off the turtle hatch. So we're well on our way. And after I finished scraping the varnish, Aladino started removing the bungs and getting the screws out of the cap rail in preparation to take it off, and I think he has something to say about that.
So on to bung removal to ultimately get this cap rail off. It will involve many more jobs and cussing because it is really wide, it has a big gluing surface, and I bet they used 5200 or something similar, and we really hope to get this away intact. So the bungs and the screws are just one initial part, but it takes so much time and is tedious that I thought I'd show you some ways to do that. The most traditional method, I mean, I don't know how traditional, but this is how I've learned it. So basically you need one for drilling and one for driving a screw. And here's the screw I'm going to be using, and you match the drill size accordingly to the shaft of the screw. The first thing that I do is I drill, and I try to go precisely in the middle, and I drill through. Another thing that I do right away, I put the force of the drill down to 1, because then I minimize the risk of actually damaging the slot of the screw, because otherwise if it was here or in the actual drilling mode, then I could possibly damage the slot, because underneath the bung there should be a screw, and I want to preserve that slot to take the screw out unharmed. So I put this to 1. It works perfectly fine to get the hole in the teak, but as soon as it hits the screw it stops turning. So that's all I need to do with this one. And now I take the screw and the impact driver, place it in there, and as it works its way down it threads into the wood, and then the head of the screw touches the metal of the next screw, but as it continues to rotate it pushes the bung up. As you can see. So of course there's glue hopefully around the bung, so it's not like it's gonna pop off like the day it was made. Most of the times it destroys, it breaks off. So what do I do next? Mostly now I use an awl, or in this case now I found this big nice needle, and this really works nicely because you want to preserve the edges around the bung as nicely as possible. Now the last resort is always to, when you're going to reinstall it, to use bigger bungs and drill the holes out bigger, but of course you can only do that a certain amount of times, so I still try to be very delicate about this. So next is just poking around until you get the entire bung off. Does this?
Oh, that's good.
So the screws that I have holding the cap rail down now, they have this square slot, and that's why I was careful with the drill also, because this is the easiest one to mess up. Like, imagine the drill comes down exactly in the middle, and then you would make this round, and there is few chances to get this one off again. That's why I like this initial step of carefulosity, extra step of care. Another thing is, even now there's still lots of epoxy in there, so I'm not trying yet to already go at it with the impact driver. because it doesn't get a good enough grip, and you might only screw this up so that you cannot get it anymore.
Screw this up.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you get Sawzall or dynamite. So I really am just careful about it, and it is a fiddly job, but I do have needles and the awl, and I try to really carefully clean the slot before I attempt to take it out. Another option that might very well work here, but I'm not going to demonstrate it right now because I sort of have a way of doing it now, but that would be with the heat gun. You put it on a lower temperature. Epoxy usually breaks up at above 60 degrees Celsius, so just try not to burn the wood around it. Maybe get a nozzle, so you really just heat up the glue that is in the hole here, and maybe you can just get all the epoxy off. So that's just a little reminder to also try that if nothing else worked. There we go. Here we go. And on to the next one. But I don't know if the camera captured it, and there is actually a tiny piece of tear out that was around the bung. Did it capture that when you were filming?
No, it is.
So I don't want to exaggerate here, but work on boats is often about these minute details. So I want to show you a few things that when it really matters and you try to avoid tear out, what you can do to prevent it from happening. And for that I go over to the other side here. So the first thing we did to prevent tear out was scraping off the varnish. So thanks for removing the varnish on the cap rail.
No worries.
But one trick, if it really has to be perfect, you can try with tape. So you put tape around the bung, self-explanatory. That is, it's really exerting a minimal amount of force. The still is epoxy, you still might get tear out, but when it's softer woods, or it's definitely worth a try. And I would have it so that you can tear it off, and then you can reuse it, and you place it onto the next bung. Like so, because they're all ½ an inch, they're all exactly the same hole, and just do it as many times as you still have enough stickiness in the tape. So that's the first one to try. And another one instead that we do very often in the boatyard is you have another piece of plywood which actually also has a hole in it. So now just for this example, because I'm not actually doing it, I have this piece of laminate, and I've drilled a ½ an inch hole, which is exactly the size of the bungs here. And what I can do now is I place it exactly over it. And what it does is, as you do this entire procedure of drilling and then using the screw to get the bung out, you are putting force on everything else that you want to stay down and not to splinter up. And since we're on the topic, just other few details I might throw in, and those are size of screw. I wasn't sure which one to use at first, just of how they're threaded, how well they would get the bung out. And I found that the bigger one makes the job a little easier because it removes more bung, obviously. The small one did just fine, but it more bung stays on it because it really gets most of the tear out, just around the screw. You can see this in this visualized example here. But if you were to use a smaller screw, you always have to choose the drill bit according to the shank of the screw that you're using. Another way might be, why don't you drill out the entire bung right away? And you can definitely do that too, but I didn't want to do that because then I would sacrifice that one drill bit that I would use, because it does hit the metal screw all the time, and you might also damage the metal screw. It's something that takes time, and there's many ways to do so. You could also use the Forstner bit right away, but I tend to take really good care of Forstner bits, and that would definitely be one that would be sacrificed for this job only. And at the price that they come, I find there's nothing easier than a little drill bit and the screw instead of having a sacrificial Forstner bit. My priority at the moment actually is trying to get the bowsprit off so that we can close the shed. When I take this off, then I can continue and focus on the bowsprit because it is set here into the Bulwarks, and after the cap rail is off, the bowsprit is easier to remove. So here we have the parts that are joined, and we have this nice inlay here. And I've been thinking of how to attack this problem, and I've decided to take the heat gun and I've put it on over 100 degrees Celsius to break up the epoxy, and then I just went at it with a pocket knife and I've scraped along, and that is just to facilitate getting in there with the oscillating multi-tool, helping to mess up the edges a bit less. The nice sign is that what is coming out, the residue is white, so that means I'm still cutting into epoxy and not wood. So that means, because I was worried maybe it was a diagonal cut or seam, but it seems to go straight down, so that's good. Woo! I think we got it. Oh, there's just a bit of sweet goop.
Oh, it came right off.
Hey, nice. Yeah, I'm proud to say it came off very nicely. We'll be able to use this again. So some more prep work. I do the same cut at the joint there, and then we can take the first part off. Just let me give it a wiggle. If it comes, then that's a good success of the day. Whoa.
Oh, hey, that came really easy.
Yeah.
That was just waiting to pop off.
Nice. We're really lucky in this regard. I would have not imagined that this comes off this easily, and it's really nice. I'm also super proud of how little we scratched up.
Well,
even though the underside is not that important, but still, amazing job. Really nice.
Well, awesome. That was all you. That was awesome.
No.
Awesome work with the multi-tool.
Yeah, and you did your part.
How's it going up there?
Pretty good.
Is the bowsprit almost off?
Yeah, I think that's the only thing holding it together still is some sealant here on the underneath side and on the starboard side.
Awesome.
Look at that. Almost there.
Nice.
A little bit of sawing. Well, and the Samson post holds it in place a bit.
You got it!
I think I do.
Is it off now then, or what does that mean?
Yeah, but there is a cutout in the Samson post, so it is still inserted. Wait, here you can see it. So it's not falling down because of that. You get it? Or like right here.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Now you can see it.
Oh, yeah.
So, but like this, it should come off. Oh, yes.
Is it coming?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
But, I don't want it too far.
Do you want to tie it up before you do the last?
Yes, maybe that's smart. Tie it up where?
I'm not sure.
Doesn't work. No, I just go down below. Maybe I can wiggle it out. Maybe use the crowbar and just kind of push it forward.
Okay, it's free.
Free?
Okay, we're gonna, well, we can't really spin it.
Like that? Do you have enough to lift it?
Yeah, you want to just back it up?
Yeah. Well, we have to lift it up. Yeah. Alright. Let me set it down. Okay. Now, yeah, let's take it back, further back. Okay. 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 Like that?
Yeah, that's good there.
Okay. I can also do like that and you pull. Yeah, cool. So, wait a second. I want to go down first, completely, and then as it's hanging, I go down. Cool, now I go down.
Okay.
Now I'll let it down slowly.
Top heavy?
Yeah, lift a bit again. Like that, maybe. Iba hoa.
Oh.
Okay.
What are you doing?
Ta-da! I am doing ta-da!
Oh my gosh. What have you done to the door?
Well, I removed this one panel and one of these so that we can swing the door and close it. And now we'll just have to close it up down here and add something with a different shape on the bow so that it can be closed.
Good morning.
Hello.
What's going on?
Huh?
What's going on today?
I'm putting up a secret shelf.
A secret shelf.
Yes, now it's not a secret anymore. God damn it. I'll do something else.
We have to take the rest of the cap rails off today, right? That's the goal?
Yeah.
Yeah, so once these cap rails are off, I think that'll round out this episode. I always sort of have an idea in my head of what I want the episode to cover, and this one I was like, I want to get the cap rails off, and then the next one we'll continue working deeper down in the bulwarks. So let's go. Let's round out the episode. Let's get the cap rails off. Let's do this. did it!
The last piece of the cap rail is off. I told you it wasn't going to take a day.
No, how many days did that take overall?
Well, we worked on it here and there, but about 3.
Yeah, with other projects thrown
Could
in.
have been done in 2 long days.
Yeah.
And the longest task was taking the bungs out and trying to get the screws out, because actually it was not bedded really well. So that part was easy of actually getting it off once all the screws were gone. And Maya did really great at poking all those bungs out and trying to get most screws out. Now, another way that we could have done this, and then actually the joints would have stayed pristine, would have been lifting the entire cap rail off as it is still connected here, all in one piece without cutting them part by part apart. But the thing is, then you have it lifted up here or somewhere. It's really awkward to move around because it still is 36 feet and the same width of the boat. And since we're here for a while and we don't know when we're going to reassemble, and also some parts like the back part here is laminated and it was delaminating, so the glue joints are separating. I don't know, it was just breaking up from time and because of the curvature. So we have to redo this or glue it back together if that will work. And that's why we actually opted for taking it apart piece by piece, and now we have a very small package that we can put away for whenever it's time to put it on again.
Yeah, the cap rail's off, the neighbor's chainsaw is on apparently, so it's time to end this episode. Thanks so much for watching. Extra special thank you to our patrons for making these episodes possible, and as always, the patrons get an extra real-time update, either an article or a video every single Tuesday about what's actually going on the boat. So thanks to our patrons for making this all happen. And thanks to everyone for watching. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up, and we'll be back next week for more progress on Magic Carpet 2. We'll see you next Friday.